Welcome back to I Don't Have Time to Read. I'm so excited to
Yeah.
jump into this book with you guys today. It's one that I couldn't put down. We're going to be exploring Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. And let me tell you, this story is both beautiful and haunting. It's going to take us deep into the marshlands of North Carolina, where we meet Kaya Clark, a young girl who's pretty much raised by the marsh itself.
You know what's so interesting to me about Kaya's upbringing? It's the stark contrast between that nurturing embrace of nature versus the harsh judgment she faces from the town nearby.
Absolutely. Kaya's abandoned by her family. First, her father disappears, then her mother. And then one by one, her siblings leave too, so she's left completely alone at a young age. In this rundown shack, the book actually describes it as being under the oaks, almost like they're caged animals.
That's so sad. It's heartbreaking. But it's also incredible to see how resilient she is. She
Yeah.
doesn't just survive, she thrives. She learns the secrets of the marsh. She becomes one with its rhythms and its creatures.
Yeah. It's almost like the marsh becomes a character itself, shaping her life just as much as any human relationship.
Right. And I also see it as a reflection of Kaya's inner world, that wildness that society tries to tame.
Oh, that's such an interesting point. And speaking of connections, there's Kate Walker, this kind soul who comes into Kaya's life. He teaches her to read, sharing his knowledge and passion for the marsh. And their bond deepens into this
First love.
yeah, but even Kate, with his genuine care for Kaya, he eventually leaves. He goes off to college. And it leaves her feeling abandoned once again. It's like that classic coming-of-age theme,
Yeah.
First heartbreak. But for Kaya, it just reinforces her, deep fear of relying on anyone.
Right. She's constantly seeking connection, but then she's pushing it away out of this fear of being hurt. And then she meets Chase Andrews, the town golden boy.
Oh, yeah.
You can practically feel the shift in the story at this point. It's almost like stepping from the shadowy marsh into the bright but potentially blinding light of the town. Right. Chase represents a world that is completely foreign to Kaya. He's privileged, popular, everything that she's not. And their relationship, it's full of this intoxicating energy, but it turns dark pretty quick.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking to see how Chase, with all of his charm and charisma, how he manipulates Kaya. Their relationship almost becomes a mirror of the town's judgment of her. He's drawn to her wildness, but ultimately tries to control her, tries to change her. And then, of course, there's the mystery surrounding his death. At the fire tower, was it an accident? Or was it something more sinister?
Right. And the whole town, they're already prejudiced against Kaya. Immediately, they point the finger at her.
Oh, they do?
It's like the marsh, which has always been her sanctuary. Now it becomes a source of suspicion in their eyes.
Exactly. They label her the Marsh Girl, using her isolation and love for nature as evidence against her. This trial, oh my gosh, it had me on the edge of my seat. It really highlights how quickly fear and prejudice can just override logic and justice.
Absolutely. It's almost like the trial itself forces her to confront this society that's always rejected her. And her response is so interesting. She's silent.
Right.
It's fascinating and also kind of frustrating,
It is. It's like she retreats further into herself, relying on those survival instincts that she learned in the marsh. She's brilliant at observing nature, understanding those intricate patterns of life and death. But the rules of human interaction, especially in such a formal setting like a courtroom, they completely elude her.
Yeah. And that silence just fuels the town's suspicion. They see it as an admission of guilt, proof that she's an outsider, capable of anything.
Right. And that's what I think makes the trial so captivating, because it forces you to question your own assumptions. Are we truly seeing Kaya for who she is? Or are we letting our own prejudices cloud our judgment?
Absolutely. I mean, the trial isn't just about finding out who killed Chase. It's about examining these deep-seated biases we all hold against those who are different.
It really is. And Owens does such a brilliant job of weaving together that courtroom drama with these larger themes of isolation and belonging. It really makes you think about how society treats those who don't fit in,
For sure.
who dare to live outside the norm.
And then there's the verdict itself. I won't give anything away. But Owens leaves it kind of shrouded in ambiguity, which forces us to confront the limitations of our own perceptions.
Yeah. You're left wondering, was justice served? Or did prejudice win the day? It's one of those endings that just stays with you long after you close the book.
Oh, for sure. I remember I finished it and I kept going back and forth in my mind, trying to piece together all the evidence. But ultimately, I think the real power of the story is its ability to spark these conversations.
Right. It's not about finding easy answers. It's about exploring the complexities of human nature, the gray areas of right and wrong.
Absolutely. And speaking of complexities, let's dive into some of the symbolism that's woven throughout the book, like the marsh, for example. It's more than just a setting.
Oh, definitely. It's like a living, breathing entity that mirrors Kaya's own journey, a place of beauty, but also danger, offering sanctuary, but also demanding resilience.
Right. And even all those feathers and shells that Kaya collects, those aren't just trinkets. They actually represent her connection to nature, her ability to find beauty and meaning in these things that are often overlooked.
Yeah, that's so true. And that reminds me of the poems that Kaya finds scattered throughout the story. They're like these little windows into her soul, expressing her longing for connection, her understanding of the natural world, and her struggle to find her place in a society that rejects her.
Yeah, they're almost like her secret language that only she can truly understand.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there are the crawdads themselves.
Yes, not just a catchy title. They represent something much deeper. What do you make of them?
Well, I see them as living in the shadows, scavenging for survival, adapting to their environment. And I think that's a reflection of Kaya's own journey, her ability to thrive in challenging circumstances.
All right, so they're both resilient and resourceful, just like Kaya. And then we have the return of Tate. Years after the trial.
Oh, yeah.
It's this moment of hope, but also a reminder of all the pain they both endured.
Right, like their love for the marsh becomes a bridge between them, a way to reconnect after so much time apart. But it's clear that the past still weighs on them both.
It does. And their reunion raises so many questions about forgiveness and second chances. Can we truly escape the shadows of our past? Or do they always linger, shaping our present and our future?
It's like a testament to the enduring power of love, but also a reminder that healing takes time. And sometimes those wounds of the past can run really deep.
They really can.
Right.
And then we see Kaya ultimately reconcile with her past, finding peace and belonging in the very place that both nurtured and isolated her.
And that's what makes the ending so powerful. It's not a happy ending necessarily, but it feels true to her character, true to her journey.
It does. It's a reminder that even in the face of immense hardship, we can find healing and hope.
Yes. And sometimes that wildness within us, those parts that society tries to tame, are the very things that make us strong.
What strikes me is how much Kaya's story resonates with, like, everyone. I think deep down, we all crave that sense of belonging, that connection to something larger than ourselves.
Absolutely. It might be nature or art or relationships, but we're all searching for that place where we feel seen, accepted for who we are.
Right. And Kaya reminds us that this search, it's not always easy. There's going to be pain, rejection, even betrayal.
Yeah.
It's a journey worth taking, even if it means going into uncharted territory.
It is. Kaya shows us how resilient the human spirit is, our capacity to adapt, to overcome, to find beauty in unexpected places.
Yeah. And I think Owens does a great job of leaving us with that sense of hope, even with all the lingering questions. Like her reconciliation with her past, finding peace in the marsh, suggests that healing is possible, even after loss and trauma.
It's a powerful message, one that speaks to that deep desire we all have for connection, for wholeness. It reminds us that even those who are marginalized, who are considered different or dangerous, even they have a story to tell.
Right.
They have beauty to offer. They have a right to belong.
Makes you think about how we treat each other, how quick we are to judge, to label Kaya's story. It's a call for empathy. It reminds us to look beyond appearances and to see the humanity in everyone.
It really does. Even those who seem so different from us.
Yeah.
It challenges us to question our biases, to be more open-minded, and to embrace that wildness.
Both in ourselves
and in the world.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes Where the Crawdads Sing such a powerful story. It stays with you long after you finished it.
Yeah.
It makes you reflect. It makes you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it helps us understand ourselves and the world better.
It does.
If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend adding it to your list. It's a journey that will captivate you.
Oh, yeah.
Make you feel things.
Yeah.
And leave you thinking long after you've closed the book.
And for those who have read it, maybe this deep dive has sparked some new insights, given you some fresh perspectives, and maybe rekindled your love for Owens storytelling.
Possibly. Thanks for joining us today on this literary adventure. Until next time, keep exploring those stories that make you curious and challenge how you see the world.
Happy reading, everyone.